How to deal with rejection. Get that fucking trash out of your life. You have legacies to build. We grew that business from 3.4 million to 17.1. Horsepower, not horse shit. You want to be the parent that's an ally. They don't need another fucking friend. Not everybody's cup of whiskey. Toughest advice for the toughest businessmen. Be relentless. This is one of the toughest topics I've ever tackled because of the fact that as human beings, we're all hardwired to want to be part of communities, to want to be part of groups. In our case, with men, we want to be part of tribes. We want to be part of brotherhoods. We've been hardwired since the beginning to want to be part of something. We're actually, very few of us are loners, and even loners want a connection. We absolutely need a connection with other people. So it's hardwired. It's hardwired. And so much human trauma and sadness comes from rejection. And the inability to turn that rejection into gasoline and fuel. We really have a choice when it comes to any adversity, any situation where we've been rejected. We really do have a choice. We can use the rejection like most people do, 99%, can use that rejection to control us. We can use it as power over us, and most people use it to destroy their lives. It becomes a movie in their mind. They play it over and over again for years and decades. Or you can make the decision, the proactive decision to say, you know what? Why has this happened to me? And how can this serve me? It's a completely different mindset. It's not easy. It's not something that comes naturally. But asking ourselves, why did this happen? How did this happen? And how can I make this work for me? How can this serve me? Even with the most difficult situations, it's all about the power of the question that we ask ourselves. How can this serve me? What can I learn from this? And then, of course, like the great Tim Grover says, turning sadness, turning trauma, turning rejection, anything into fuel and gasoline, using it as a chip on your shoulder, a mental chip on your shoulder to drive you to all-time new heights. To use it as fuel and gasoline to take your entire world to an entire next level. There's nothing more powerful than somebody saying you can't do something. There's nothing more powerful than somebody not believing in you and then you proving them wrong. Revenge, positive revenge, is an extremely powerful motivator. And what do they say? The greatest revenge? A life well lived. The greatest revenge, a life well lived. So that is always the goal. I think that rejection is a part of life. When I think about men like my father being rejected, the minute that they came into this world, my dad's parents abandoned him. When he was born at the hospital, his mother and father both abandoned him, gave him up for adoption. He was abandoned at birth and was left at the hospital for the first 30 days. This was, way back in the day, and a child that had no parents became a property of the government or the state or the ward or whatever you want to call it, And after 30 days, he was put into child services. So the first 30 days of his life, he was rejected by his biological parents. And after 30 days, the child welfare started searching for a home. There were some nice, some kind people that adopted my father and raised him. They had their own 5 children, and the rest is history. But what a form of rejection, to be rejected by your biological parents is got to be at the top of the list for trauma. But like my dad has said, he's been through so much, especially beginning his life being rejected by his parents. He said, well, I've always looked around at what everybody else was doing and did the exact opposite. The home that he was adopted into was a place that was filled with alcoholism, substance abuse, living for the weekend. There was no entrepreneurs, there was no role models, there was no ambition to follow. So my dad just looked around and said, you know what? As a young man, he didn't know exactly what he wanted, but he said, I sure as hell don't want this. I don't want a life of living for the weekends. I don't want to be drinking myself into a stupor every weekend. I don't want to be working for the man. I don't want to be controlled in a government job or counting the days in my life away like my brothers and sisters. I don't want to be abusing my body until I'm sick with cancer or heart disease. I want to be in control, and I want to build my own world. So as a young man, he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do. He knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur. He knew he wanted to punch his own ticket. And he also knew that the only way to do that, good morning, was to look around at what everybody else was doing and do the exact opposite. He did the exact opposite of his brothers and sisters. He did the exact opposites of all the people in his world as a young person. And the rest is history. 13 companies, still in great health, living independently. My parents are still living in the home we were raised in. My dad will be turning 90 this September. My dad will be turning 90 this September. He's, still driving, still, working at the pool, cutting grass. He finally retired at age 85. My mom and dad were here in Naples for 9 days. We were out walking every day. My dad reads for 2 or 3 hours every day. Strong, physical, mentally sharp, active. So that's the life that he chose. And it all started with massive rejection from his biological parents. This is something that I've tried to purposely introduce into my daughters. My 10-year-old daughter, Emery's life is rejection. I think that it's so important that our children understand that rejection is going to be part of life. It's going to be part of their experience. Life is incredibly hard and difficult, and the sooner our children and our teenagers, the sooner they learn how difficult life is, I think the better off they're going to be. This is why 8th place trophies are so crippling to our children. This is the reason that when we protect our children from adversity, when we protect them from doing difficult and hard things, we literally cripple them. Self-esteem is built by doing difficult things. Self-esteem is built by doing things that are hard and overcoming adversity and challenges. We're all going to be rejected. We're all going to be rejected by the other sex. We're going to be rejected when we're dating as young children. We're going to be rejected by friends. We're going to be rejected by some family members. We're going to be rejected by the The cool kids, we're going to be rejected. When we apply for jobs as a young person, we're going to be rejected. When we try out for things, sports teams, theater programs, we're going to be rejected. As an entrepreneur, you're actually literally moving from one rejection to the next with enthusiasm. When you think about it, as an entrepreneur, as a badass businessman, you're literally every day moving from one rejection to another with enthusiasm. That's the old saying, entrepreneurship is moving from one failure to the next with enthusiasm. Well, it could also be rejection. The banks reject us, the credit card companies can reject you, an employee can reject you, the marketplace can reject you. It's just an endless flow of rejection that we need to turn into positive fuel and gasoline. Well, that means that doesn't work. No means not now. No means not now. The marketplace doesn't want that product, or they don't want it like that. Learning from our failures, failing forward with flair. So it's really, really important that we introduce this into our children's lives, our teenagers' lives, that rejection is part of the deal. Life is difficult and rejection is part of the deal. So I've tried to purposely, Krista and I have tried to purposely put as much of this into Emery's 10 years on this planet as possible. And most of it comes from me pushing her into the entrepreneurial arena. In other words, getting her to do things that require her asking and then dealing with the multiple no's that come with it. So as an example, she had a lemonade stand here last Friday, and she just crushed it. She had it in the perfect location at the front gate here. Friday at 4:00 is a very busy time. She had the Gary Halbert starving crowd. Her timing was impeccable, and she nailed it with the free lemonade. She made hundreds of dollars. For the charity that she was sponsoring, which is the Southwest Florida Conservancy. That's a animal and nature conservation program. They save the lives of alligators and turtles and birds. These animals, it's like a massive animal hospital that's run on donations. So she raised funds for this. We had a private tour of the place a couple weeks ago. And the reason she supports this charity is our neighbor, Tim Thompson, is one of the volunteers, 19 years as a volunteer at the Southwest Florida Conservancy. A lot of great people doing a lot of great work. So, even though she's doing the lemonade stand and it's a big success and she made all kinds of money, you'd be surprised. She stood out there on the grass beside the street and she held up this big sign which said free lemonade, and she made her money off a donation. She'd give the lemonade away for free, and then people were encouraged to donate to the charity. But you'd be surprised, she probably failed about 75% of the time. And the failure really isn't personal because at the time it's more about, the person is driving by, they're in a hurry, they don't have any cash, Goofy doesn't carry a cash anymore, right? They don't have a quarter, they don't have $1, they don't have $5. They're helpless. They're helpless if their card doesn't work. So Emery's out there and she's got her sign and she's looking at these people, and 7 out of 10 don't stop and don't donate. So that's rejection 80% of the time. And she stands there for 2 hours and she takes it. And I'm encouraging her and Krista's encouraging her, but at the end of the day, she has to have the mental calluses to do it on her own. And she does. Because in her mind, we've reframed failure We've reframed rejection to mean, you know what, no means not now, or no means not now. And we've reframed failure and rejection to mean, you know what, this is part of the process. This is what it takes to get to a yes, and the only failure is not trying. We got that idea from the great Sarah Buckley, from her dad telling her for years. Sarah Buckley is the billionaire who owns Spanx, and Sarah Buckley's dad would ask at the kitchen table every week, what have you failed at this week? And the kids would have to give an answer. Tell me something that you failed at this week. There's no success without failure. Tell me something that you failed at this week. And this taught Buckley, she said at the time she thought it was odd as a child, but at the time she said it completely reframed failure. It completely reframed rejection. And all of a sudden they started to, their mindset was no means not now. And also, it also put in their mind, fail forward. If we're failing fast and we're failing forward and we're failing with flair, it's just a matter of time until we're winning. So it's almost it's a mindset of embracing failure and rejection. It's part of the game. It's part of the process. And building those mental calluses in yourself and your children where, okay, no means not now. No means not now. No means not now. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other and getting to that yes, failing with flair fast. So it's interesting, she stood out there for 2 hours and my daughter got rejected 70% of the time. And she never mentioned it. She just kept working. She kept holding up the sign. She kept asking people. And then at the end of it, she went home and she counted all her money. And that was her win. That was her championship. She wanted to make as much money as she could for the Conservancy. And she did. And it was amazing. The reason I said, sometimes it's difficult when people say no. And she said to me, she has that reason why. She had that powerful reason why behind her, which is a big thing. She wanted to help the Conservancy. She wanted to help the animals. So when somebody said no and somebody rejected her, it didn't really affect her. She was like Teflon because she had this burning reason why. So when you have a kick-ass burning reason why for something, building your company, losing 40 pounds, not drinking alcohol, reconnecting with your wife, whatever it is, then all of a sudden the rejection and the failure just fades away. It's like you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Somebody says no to you, it's like, okay, not now. No means not now. You gotta develop those mental calluses. And that's the only way the game is played. Also, like my daughter, she has her dog walking company here that she started 4 or 5 months ago in Naples. And she passes out flyers door to door and she walks dogs. And she sells these little 5 walk packages. You buy 4 walks and you get a 5th walk free. And she does an amazing job passing out these paper flyers. And she's made hundreds of dollars. And it's great for her, great exercise. But she gets rejected like 97% of the time, 96% of the time. So she hands out 100 flyers as an example, and she's handed out 100 flyers at least to each door. And it's amazing because, and I do it with her, it's amazing that she now understands that 1%, 2%, even 3 or 4% is a home run. I mean, it's an absolute home run. She understands that if she can even get 5% of the people to say yes to her dog walking, then that's like that's a Super Bowl win. So it's amazing when we teach our children and we understand ourselves that losing is part of the process and failure is part of the process and rejection is part of the process. So, 94 people reject her offer of dog walking. And because she has the mental calluses, she just looks at it and says, you know what? there's 3 or 4% that wanted me to walk their dog. She understands that 4% is winning. She understands now that 3% is winning. And the faster she can be rejected, the faster she can be told no, the quicker she'll get to those 3 or 4 yeses. The quicker she'll get to those 3 or 4% yeses. So really, really important stuff. It's something that's designed, something that's developed in a person. Good morning. It's something that we don't inherit. It's not a gift. We all have to build those mental calluses to help us deal with rejection. And as adults, it continues to happen. We're rejected by people. We're rejected by our marketplace. And if you're a little bitch and you take that stuff personally, or you just take it to heart, it is personal. Don't ever let anyone say, when I was fired in hockey, do you think it wasn't personal? The guy that it's not. It is personal, but I'm not a little bitch who lets it destroy my life. Okay, I lick my wounds for a couple of weeks, and then boom, I get back on my feet, bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And I use it for fuel and gas. I've used it. I've used that firing, the only firing in my life. I've used that as gasoline and fuel. I've used it as a story to help other men. I've used it as fuel and gasoline. I was rejected at the highest level. Fired from a pro hockey coaching job, my dream job. I'm on the way to the NHL. I'm only 26 years old. Michael, you're fired. I'm working 90 hours a week. The team is winning. Michael, you're fired. The team was in financial problems, so I got fired. But you know what? I went to Florida, I went to Mexico, and then after 2 weeks, I was done bitching and whining and complaining, and I used it to propel myself into buying my own hockey franchise, so I was in control. I bought a hockey franchise within a month. I was the owner, I was the head coach, I was the marketing director, and the rest is history. But I didn't use rejection. I didn't use it to destroy my life. I didn't walk around and wear it as trauma on my sleeve. It wasn't something as serious as what my dad went through. It wasn't something like, my family rejected me or something. I just lost my job. And there's a great saying, sweating out sadness. And I think it really, in my personal experience, when I've been rejected by people or marketplaces or things, instead of doing what everybody else does, reaching for a drink or reaching for your cell phone to scroll away, or depending on dopamine hits, or burying yourself in anti-social media or politics or the news, or smoking pot, or diving into get your gambling addiction, or burying yourself in the toxicity of porn. All these things that the majority does whenever they feel rejected or sad or unhappy. What I do is something I learned from a great mentor, was sweat out sadness. Sweat out sadness. And that's literally what I'm doing when I'm out here walking, or when I go to the gym, or if I do one of those massive 4-mile walks that I do once or twice a week. If I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling depressed, or if I'm feeling stressed or worried, or if I feel that I've been rejected, something didn't work out, that video didn't work out, that email didn't work out, the product was a failure, we lost a good employee, whatever it is, however I've been rejected, I sweat out sadness. I do the opposite of what I used to do. I don't sit on the dock and have a few drinks and escape. I don't try to escape my life. I don't try to push down my feelings of rejection. I just sit down and journal about them for 2 or 3 minutes. I say, okay, I feel pretty bad about being rejected by this person or this marketplace or whatever it is. I write it out, and then I go sweat out the sadness. And the sweating out the sadness for me could be, it could be a 2 or 3 mile walk by myself in solitude, leaving my iPhone at home. It could be me doing some hill sprints. It could be me banging out 100 Hindu squats. It could be me going for a long swim, going to the beach, walking on the beach for miles and miles. Any of these things where you get yourself moving, you get yourself out in the sunshine, you get yourself out in the nature, and most importantly, you get yourself disconnected from any technology. Like, I love to walk for miles and miles in my bare feet on the beach with no technology, nobody else, sometimes just Chris and I, and just walk. I have walked for miles and miles and miles on the beach. And essentially, it's sweating out sadness. It's sweating out rejection. It's sweating out these emotions instead of pushing them down with pills or drugs or alcohol or gambling or booze or porn or any of this other shit. So sweating out sadness is a weapon to use when rejection is in your life. Maybe your wife is rejecting you. Maybe your teenage daughter is rejecting you. Maybe your adult son is rejecting you. Maybe your brother is rejecting you. Maybe your sister-in-law is rejecting you. Maybe your marketplace is rejecting you. They're like, we don't want your product. We don't like your prices. We don't like your product. We don't like it. Maybe your marketing's being rejected. Maybe, maybe a family member is rejecting you. It's all part and parcel of life. And it's all about, like I said, asking the right questions. How can this serve me? What can I learn from this? And then, asking yourself the right questions will always give you productive answers. But we're so hardwired to want to conform. We're so hardwired to want to fit in. It's our nature to fit in, not to stand out. Why do you think it's so hard for you to be a badass world builder? Why do you think it's so hard for you to be a contrarian, a renegade, a maverick, and a badass? Why do you think it's so difficult for you to constantly go against the grain, to take the road less traveled? Yes, it's the correct path, but it's hard, it's difficult. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's hard to do the exact opposite of the 99% around you? Because you're hardwired to fit in. You're hardwired to be a tribe member. You're hardwired to be part of a brotherhood. You're hardwired to be part of a group. So to head the opposite direction, to be a maverick, an outlier, a badass, is the exact opposite of how you're hardwired. And that's why getting around other elite men, other top 1% elite men, husbands, fathers, grandfathers, entrepreneurs, community leaders, is so critical. Because we're the top 1% and we need to be immersed and we need that power of association. You can't expect to diverge in your life. You can't expect to live life and do business on your own terms if you're not around elite men all the time. You're around elite men, you read the books, you study the newsletters, you use the power of association to your advantage. You get around other mavericks and other renegades and other outliers and other badasses. And then diverging and heading the other way becomes much, much simpler. And also dealing with rejection becomes much simpler. Because if you're going to be a 1%er, if you're going to head the opposite way, there's going to be a ton of rejection. People are going to reject you as a entrepreneur. They're going to reject you as a man. Hell, you're not going to achieve and build the life of your dreams and not be rejected. I mean, the higher you go up that flagpole, the more your ass is exposed. So rejection, like controversy, if you want to be a 1%er, is part and parcel. It's part of the process. It's part of the game. So we need to introduce rejection. We need to embrace rejection, and we need to use rejection as fuel. And the last thing I'll say about this from a personal perspective, I introduce this into my daughter's world as much as possible. My daughter was walking on this street the other day, and she's known as the dog whisperer. Emery is the dog whisperer in this community because she's the dog walker. And she walked up to this lady the other day, and in the evening, and she said, "May I pet your dog?" And the lady said, "Sorry, no." And really, she was quite blunt and all this stuff. But I mean, it startled Emery a little bit because she usually gets a yes in those situations. But once again, what an incredible teaching opportunity for no means not now. And Emery was a little bit stung by the rejection. We all get stung by rejection. And then it makes us needy, right? We want it more. You know, we want what we can't have. That's a hardwired motivation. So I talked to Emery, and Krista talked to Emery, and we said, you know, there's a lot of situations that could have been happening that lady said that. Maybe the lady was having a difficult day. Maybe that dog was not friendly. Maybe that dog didn't, do well with strangers. Maybe the dog was aggressive, whatever it was. I said, we didn't know what was going on. So that lady has the right to say no. It's her dog. And then after that, we had a little bit of a laugh about it, and everything was good. But just dealing with even tiny rejections like that are difficult. We're hardwired to fit in, and it's something that you're going to battle your entire life. But here's the thing, and this is really important from a business standpoint. Nothing repels success and money like neediness. I talk about this with my top mastermind guys, and I don't hear other coaches talking about it, but nothing repels money, wealth, success, and people that you do want in your life like neediness. I mean, neediness is like repellent for money and success. It's the opposite result that you want. And what happens is, good morning. It does the opposite, and there's nothing more powerful, whether it's reality or not. It's almost the fake it until you make it situation when you're a young entrepreneur and you don't have any money, and you grin and bear it and say no to that client that you don't want, or you say no to putting on the knee pads and begging for business, because being needy repels. The thing is, it's the same in marriage. If you're in a situation where one of the partners in a marriage is needy, always begging, always, whatever you want to call it, always on bended knee, then that's not going to be a healthy relationship. There has to be, good morning, there has to be a situation where both people need each other. And it's the same, that the job that you want, or the money that you want, or the person you want, or the employee you want. The worst thing you can do from a marketing standpoint is neediness. People can absolutely feel neediness, whether you need this too much. And that's how, when we're younger, we go after this, we want to date this girl, and all of a sudden, we're like dogs in heat as young teenagers. And what do we end up doing? We end up, of course, repelling the person. We end up, neediness is just the most repelling energy on earth. And it's the same in business. If you absolutely need this client, if you have people in your life that you absolutely need, that, they own your ass, then that's the kind of neediness that's repellent to success and to wealth. See, I've learned in the last few years, And admittedly, it's much easier when you're in a safe harbor financial place. But I started this long before I had enough money to retire. And what I started doing in terms of rejection is I would just emotionally disconnect from the result. So if I sent out 500 flyers as an example, and if I got 1%, 2%, 3%, that was a slam for me. That was a win. And even if I didn't get that, you know what? It wasn't part of my identity. It wasn't a part of my identity. Those flyers just weren't good enough, or they didn't hit at the right time, or whatever. The marketplace rejected me, but I stopped internalizing the rejection. I said, fuck it, I don't care if anybody calls. I literally had a don't give a shit attitude. And I did the same thing when I would send my daily emails and my weekly emails. I'd write an email to the best of my ability, and I'd be like, well, the sun's gonna come up tomorrow. My wife's still gonna love me. My daughter's still gonna love me. I send an email, and if it sells some products, great. But if it doesn't sell, if the email is rejected, then I don't care. I don't care. And it's interesting, same thing. I sat down and wrote my book, took a couple months out of my life and wrote my book. And I thought it was fantastic, right? How to not get your ass kicked in business and life. And it's been a slam dunk for us. But there was a very real possibility that nobody would want it. Nobody would want to read it. Nobody would want to buy it. There was a huge risk that nobody would want to read it. Same with shooting these videos, same with daily emails, same with anything you do. There's a huge percentage that nobody will want it. So I had the mindset then of like, I don't care. Zero neediness, I call it. Zero neediness, where I'm like, I don't give a shit if anyone buys the book. If they want to buy the book, great. If they don't want to buy the book, great. I started my Masterminds, and a Mastermind's $30,000. It's a lot of money for some men. And my wife, Krista, was like, I'm like a little bit concerned. I'm like, I'm going to start this Mastermind. I need 10 guys in it. It's a lot of money. I'm charging a lot because I believe it's worth that in 10x. And Krista looked at me over the dinner table one night and she said, why do you care? Like, if 5 guys sign up, 5 guys sign up. If 3 guys sign up, 3 guys sign up. She said, if it's as life-changing as you say it is, put it out there and let the marketplace decide. But she said, it's not going to change anything for us. We're not going to move to, Jacksonville because of your mastermind failure. We're not going to sell our car. We're not going to put Emery in a different school. We're not going to shop at a different store. She said, so write your book, produce your mastermind, and put it out in the universe and let the marketplace decide. Some things will be a hit and some things will be a failure. And ever since then, I've had that mindset where I don't care if somebody buys my book. I don't care if somebody watches my video. I don't care if they join my brotherhood or not. I don't care whether they join my Email Millions program. My Email Millions program, which is starting in June, it's going to transform a business person's life for next to no money. Send an email once or twice a week, which I write, and you can't lose. You can't whiff on this one. You can't whiff on this one. You may get rejected once or twice, but most of the time you're going to win. So really, it hasn't mattered at all to me about whether or not people sign up for that. And what's been the result? The result has been that that program is almost full. Same thing with the masterminds. What was the result of zero neediness? Was the mastermind filled up completely. So that's the good morning. That's the power of not needing anything. That's the power of not giving rejection any power. That's the power of non-neediness. And man, does it make a difference. So that's what I want. That's, sweat it out. The final thing I'll say in my personal life is rejection is constant. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to sit down. You got to take a few deep breaths. You got to write it out. And you got to let it you got to let it run its course. Like my father says, let it run its course. Sometimes it just takes time. You sit down, you write it, you go for long walks, you use the fuel as fire to read more, to write more, to walk more, to train more, and just let it run its course. And I find when it comes to rejection, when I sweat it out, when I drink tons of water, when I read great books, when I hang out with great people, and I give it time, whether it's days or months, eventually I just let it run its course. It's supposed to be in there. Rejection is something that it takes time. And then once it's gone, it's gone. I let it filter its way out of my body, my mind, my soul. And sometimes that's the only way. You do everything, you control the controllables, you do everything you can in terms of rejection, the things that you can do, and then you just let it take its course. It's hardwired, I'm sorry. It's hardwired. There is no easy button, there's no magic beans. You got to control the controllable, and then you got to give it time. And some rejections can be crippling if you allow them. But using it as fuel to drive your life to a new level is key, absolutely key. I don't think there's anything like the sting of rejection. I think back to my high school days, my university days, where I was rejected by a girl or rejected by a business for a job. And those are like encrypted in your mind. Those are such powerful emotions that you just remember them for the rest of your life. So nobody avoids the sting of rejection. And rejection is with us to the day we move on. It's not going anywhere. And the sooner you can develop those mental calluses, that thick skin, where you look at rejection and you say, you know what? Will this even matter in another week? Will this even matter in another month? Will this even matter in 6 months? Will this even matter in 5 years? That's a big question right there when it comes to rejection, because we're in the moment, right? We're taking it personally, we're connected to it. Nobody bought the product, or our wife left, or our kids are disconnected, whatever it is. And it's like, there's things that matter, like our families and like our children, and then there's a whole bunch of things that do not matter. Things like, the marketplace, or things like an employee or something like that. So some rejection matters and some rejection does not matter. Ask yourself that question always. Will this even matter at all in another week? Will this matter at all in another year? Will this matter at all in another 5 years? And that'll certainly help you deal with the trauma of rejection. That's it for today. I'm opening the doors to my immigration to my May Michael McLean newsletter. You can get in by going to the link below, michaelmcleanletter.coach. This May edition is one badass 22-page jumbo edition. It's something that you certainly want delivered to your home or your business, and you can do that by subscribing, joining my brotherhood at michaelmclean.coach, michaelmcleanletter.coach. The link is below the video, and the link is in the email. and I'll send you a nice free black badass t-shirt. And if you upgrade this month to diamond level, which is my highest newsletter level, you can email Leanne to do that. I'll send you one of my brand new badass red lids, ball caps, that appear to be very popular. They're not sold anywhere, that you can't get them anywhere. I wear them. I've designed them. Good morning. I've designed them so if you upgrade to diamond, and yes, diamond members will get a ball cap. If you upgrade or subscribe to diamond, you'll get the t-shirt and you'll get the cool #badass lid. If you don't like it, your kids will certainly like it. On the back of the t-shirt and on the back of the ball cap says "Be Relentless." So two pretty nice free gifts this month for subscribing to my brotherhood. michaelmcleanletter.coach. michaelmcleanletter.coach. Remember, man, I shoot these videos for free every day. You don't have to buy anything, and I don't really care if you do buy something, but spread the wealth around. Pay the tax. The tax around here is you don't have to buy anything that I have. I do these to serve 1 million men. That's my mission. But if you know somebody that needs to hear this message or these messages for free, then share this email and share this video with them. I appreciate any likes. I appreciate any comments. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That helps me be less uncensored. I'm being censored on YouTube, of course. I'm being censored on Facebook. But all of that helps. So if you have somebody, you know, whether it's another business owner, an entrepreneur, maybe it's a teenager, one of your adult children who needs to hear these kick-ass messages, then please share my video and my email with them. And I appreciate that. That's how we pay the tax around here. I do these for no cost to you, and that's the tax. Pay it forward, share it with somebody who needs to hear this message. Share the email, share the video, and let's get these kick-ass messages out to the world, to people that need to hear them. That's it. Subscribe, take care of that today. michaelmcleanletter.coach. michaelmcleanletter.coach. Pickleball morning here. Nothing beats pickleball. I'm loving this sport. This is one of the things. Krista and I took a clinic, and Emery is taking a clinic. So anything that's movement, anything that's socializing like this, great people, sports, and these courts are only 5 minutes from our house. They're not even 5 minutes. So when in Rome, pickleball. Talk about fun. Great way when you go to a session on Tuesday night or Thursday night, I'll meet like 20 new people. And this is an affluent neighborhood. So you're meeting a lot of retired CEOs, a lot of company founders. You're meeting a lot of top 1%ers that you can relate to, that you can talk to. They understand advertising, they understand marketing, they understand the wins, the losses, they understand rejection. They understand that rejection is part of the game. The more we get rejected, the faster we get to where we want to go. So yeah, association is a very, very, very powerful tool. That's it for today. michaelmcleanletter.com. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.